Good evening. I would just like to quickly share with you this very encouraging restored marriage testimony, and it's titled Sent Straight from God. And she starts off by saying, my husband left home unexpectedly, breaking my heart, telling me it was over. And, I just wanted to mention that even for myself, when I went through my separation, I also felt like I also felt very heartbroken. And for me, if I could describe how I felt, it was like a piece of glass that was shattered on the ground, millions and millions of pieces laying there, and that was my heart. And then she speaks about the principles that she learned. And I just want to highlight, she says, I learned that God won't give me more than I can bear, and yet it may be more than I thought I could take. I think I learned to love God above all else. I pray God will continue to give me as many trials as I need to keep me humble and depending on Him. I mean that. Doing it on our own is not peaceful or joyful, and He knows it. And I can just totally relate there, because there have been many times in my life where I have tried to do things in my own strength, or I've wanted to do something or have a desire to do something, and it's just never ever worked out. But the minute I started asking the Lord for His plans and His purposes for my life, and started seeking Him, and whenever I wanted to do something, ask Him about it, and let Him lead and guide me, that's when I started seeing the changes and the blessings in my life. So she speaks about how God changed her situation, and she says, doing everything differently. We are taught and told to do things entirely different than His Word says, and what we feel like doing, what comes naturally. And she says this is a spiritual journey, not just towards restoration, but towards much more. Finding our heavenly husband and becoming His bride. No other ministry or church speaks about this, and it's why so many women like me clung to and smothers their earthly husband, making demands rather than finding the love that we're looking for. And that happens. Before I found the resources that Jenny is speaking about, I also clung to my husband, and the more I clung to him, the more I ran after him, the more he wanted to just get away from me. Okay, so let me share a little bit more. What were the most difficult times? So she says some of the most difficult times. She says the other woman, and hearing how happy they were, not hearing from my earthly husband for months and not trying to, which at first was hard, I can imagine. It all changed though when I found my true love. My heavenly husband became all I needed or wanted, and as soon as I really lived this way with no hint of obsession or focusing on my earthly husband, that's when he showed up at my door. She also says one day after I began hearing from him again, we went to lunch, and he wound up asking me for a divorce. I did not know how to respond. I ignored my shock, but found myself gently disagreeing for a full half hour. But then God brought to my mind to agree with him, so I did. And there is a scripture that speaks about agreeing with our enemies, and that's what she did. So she says, so I did, and the moment I did, divorce never came up again. What a test. My husband continued to run from God for another month or so, but then God, in His perfect timing, saved my husband. So tell us how it happened. So she says, He gave me a love song I sang continuously, and with His love came the hope I needed when my life was so dark and painful, so much pain that I could not see. Yet my love showed me compassion and bestowed mercy on my husband too by helping me love him when he was entirely unlovable. And I just want to point out, over here you can see the pink love song. Now, if you click on there, it will take you to another page that will explain love song. And all the pink writing, if you click on there, it will take you to another page that will explain those words, okay? So let's just, to end off, okay, so to end off, she says, this is a lifelong journey, and if you must pray, God will continue to give you as many trials as I needed to have to keep me humble and depending on Him. I mean that, as I said before. So she says that, that in this lifelong journey that she prays that God will continue giving her many trials so that she can be kept humble and depending on Him. And that's where we need to be, each and every day of our lives. We need to be depending on Him. I also just want to point out, she also says, no matter what has been thrown at you, it's intended to break you, so you'll find your heavenly husband and become his bride, washed, healed, and whole. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, and other women, or even if the other woman is pregnant, it's all for the purpose of finding him. So really, our trials and our tribulations, it's really for the purpose of finding the Lord, and He uses those trials to just break us so that we can put Him in His rightful place, put the Lord in His rightful place in our lives, and that is first. So I really hope that you enjoyed this restored marriage testimony. I will leave the link below and links to other resources that can also help you in your journey as well.